Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Poor Richard's Cafe and Star Local Media. Poor Richard's Cafe, Plano's oldest restaurant since 1973. They are open daily from 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., serving the three most important meals of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dessert. It is true Texas home-style cooking made with love and grit. That is Poor Richard's Cafe, located off of Avenue K in Plano. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch, I'm the sports editor at Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Taylor Ragland and Brian Murphy. Gentlemen, for the first time this year, let's talk softball. I guess in light of the cold weather this week, a lot of our districts have either begun, like as is the case in Frisco, or they start some point this week. I know for 9-6A and 8-5A, they start tonight and whatnot. So for the very first time, let's bat around some early observations from softball season. We've had 2-3 weeks worth of tournaments for these teams to show some early signs of what they might have in store this season, and with district play about to begin and the most important phase of the regular season about to take off. Let's just talk a bit about just some things that have caught our eye from around our coverage area for softball so far. So we'll have the three of us talk a little bit about some of the takeaways from our markets. Then later on we will bring on Devin Hassan, Kendrick Johnson, and Justin Thomas to round it out. So, Brian, that Frisco district is already how many games in? Four. Okay, so you've already got an idea of what is in store in Frisco. So what have been some of the early developments out in District 9-5A and some initial takeaways on what Frisco ISD has? I mean, that's fewer games than some of the other sports we've already tried to dive into when y'all hadn't even started a district game yet. Wakeland, they're still good. Okay. They're 3-1. Makes sense. Yeah. They've been the softball, powerhouse the last couple years. They had a stud pitcher, Kendall Fritz. She's gone. But you still have some heavy hitters. Dom Rodriguez, one of the top hitters in the area last year. She's back at third base. Wakeland, they're 3-1. But there are two 4-0 teams in Frisco right now. Centennial, kind of a surprise there at 4-0. And then Independence, a team that I saw last year lose in the first round of the playoffs to Little Elm, a really good Little Elm team that we'll talk about here in a little bit, with some really good young talent. Lots of good freshmen and sophomores on that playoff team, and they're 4-0. Macy Allen, she put up some monster stats her freshman year, almost an equally good season last year as well. Their catcher, she's a good player to watch in that district. She's a junior, could be an MVP candidate. They're 4-0, and then Reedy and Lone Star, they're right there at 3-1 as well. So you have, 5 teams right now in the thick of things fighting for 4 spots, and that's not to say that, teams like Heritage or Liberty couldn't fight for those spots, later down the road that are 1-3, but, couple games. There's an 18-game district, 10-team district at that. So a lot can happen in Frisco ISD. Who did you feel like coming into this was maybe the initial front runner in this district? Kind of Independence. Okay. Independence. They were loaded with young talent, and then they had Little Elm on the ropes last year, and that was an entertaining series. In the first round, Little Elm barely hung on to win. I looked at that Independence team. They had some hitters. They had some good pitching, and I'm like, hey, with Kendall Fritz leaving, you can't count out Wakeland, who's been, the district champion year in and year out in this softball district. But I was kind of looking at Independence. That 4-0 record to start didn't surprise me one bit. I'd expect Independence to be right there in the mix for a district crown in these coming weeks. DFW Fast Pitch, one of the well-known softball outlets on social media, they release their weekly rankings, and they have 2 Frisco ISD squads within their top 6 over in 5A. Ironically enough, Independence is not one of them. They have Reedy in at number 5 and Wakeland in at number 6. Well, Wakeland with the name, they still have, like I said, they still have the heavy hitters, and Reedy, they're right there at 3-1. So I mean, that list will fluctuate. Have any of them play? Like, how's that schedule structured? Is it just a standard round robin? Yeah. It's not back to backs. Okay. It's they play the first 9, I guess, and then they start it back over and then play the other 9. And I'm curious if any of those powerhouses have played one another already, or well. Independence already beat Wakeland 3-2 in 8 innings, extra innings. So that kind of tells you a little bit about the legitness of Independence so far. We talk about the the DFW Fast Pitch poll just for the Metroplex rankings, and over in 6A, you've got a district like 9-6A, which is you know, when you think of Plano ISD and Allen, McKinney ISD, and now Prosper, I mean, there's so many formidable softball programs within that district alone. And you look over these rankings, and just within the top 10 in the Metroplex for DFW fast pitch, you have 5 programs from District 9-6A.
That's one more than there are playoff spots, Matt.
Yes.
Conveniently.
Yes, Taylor. So,
and this sounds really familiar to girls basketball.
Yeah.
It's that way in a lot of sports with this district. So, Taylor, yes, whether it's Plano West, Plano East, 2 teams that do crack this poll, Plano West checking in at number 7, Plano East at number 9 in the area. What are some initial impressions from those 2 schools?
I mean, it's hard to get a read on both of them because they missed the playoffs a season ago, have some pretty significant turnover for you know, different spots in the lineup, especially East. But, you know, I guess we'll start with West, and if you're going to start with West, you have to start with, you know, the superstar. Mm-hmm. You have to start with Jayda Boyd. The Stanford commit missed the majority of last season after a freak, broke her finger, I believe, against Allen in the first round district play. Mm-hmm. Couldn't come back. You know, started maybe pitching a little bit, but couldn't hit toward the end. And it was basically just kind of a lost season from the point that she went down because, you know, as we know in softball, as opposed to a lot of other sports, you know, one player can really drive an entire team forward.
Especially if it's a pitcher.
Especially a pitcher, because, you know, it's not as taxing on the arm. You get to go night in and night out. Mm-hmm. And she is, you know, just that quintessential superstar. You know, she was already, you know, I was talking to head coach Mike Letzum the other day, and she's already thrown a perfect game and a no-hitter this season. She hits at the plate as well. So getting her back is huge. But then there's also, you know, a couple of other seniors, especially Elisa Rosado. I look at her also as another leader. You know, her and Boyd have been, you know, there for their entire careers at the varsity level. Really good, solid core leadership. Then also you have, you know, you hate to see a team's season swing on the loss of one player. But kind of a byproduct of that is they had a lot of girls come up last season and play more innings and see more action than maybe they would have, just because everything was so in flux basically throughout the year. So, you know, one name I really look at is Morgan Lester, a junior. I thought she had a pretty good season last year. Will definitely play a bigger role this year, and that's kind of the theme of the entire team. You know, they're largely not young. You know, a lot of juniors and stuff too, but you know, they got some experience last year. They have Jayda Boyd back as kind of the spearhead, and I really see them making a return to the playoffs if she can stay healthy. She's just so dominant. You know, and on the east side, it's a little different scenario. You know, you look at Plano East, you lose some pretty big influential names from a season where they essentially missed the playoffs by like half a game. You know, they tied with Allen at the end, lost on tiebreakers, and ended up in 5th place. Thanks to a week where they lost to Allen in extra innings and then lost to Plano to finish things out. So really tough way into the season. Obviously that's motivation for them, especially for the returners. You know, you look at Ashley Dart, Ronnie Ramos, Nicole High. They have a lot of talent back. Carson Armijo, you know, being a junior, obviously is probably the most talented at UCLA commit, probably the most talented player. You know, so that core is still there, but at the same time, you know, you lose Bella Konecka at second base. You lose, you know, Markley in the outfield. You lose Gabby Lopez, who really did a good job last season of kind of spelling Armijo when, you know, she couldn't go and kind of being that number 2 option in the circle, which High has had to take over this year. So I would say, you know, out of the 2 clubs, West, maybe there's a little bit more, I don't want to say certainty, because who knows in this district, but I feel a little bit more confident about them behind Jayda Boyd, Rosado, and the rest of that lineup. But Plano East is a great program. You know, they're not accustomed to missing the playoffs. They do bring back a lot of players. They bring back a lot of experience. They bring back some good leadership. So, you know, it's a case where I could see both of these teams turning it around from missing the postseason a season ago to, you know, getting in the tournament this year, and maybe even, you know, I'm sure you'll talk about Plano having all 3 Plano ISD schools in the postseason. We'll see. Brian,
just some quick notes on Prosper, because I know Prosper making the jump to Class 6A. They've held up just fine in every other sport, it feels like. What do you, I guess, do you foresee that form holding in softball? Or?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, they're coming off a 14-0 district run last year. Probably their best season. Actually, their best season in 5A a year ago. They lose one of the best and most dominant pitchers that the state really saw last year in Rachel Croat. She had, you know, she was on a tear after, you know, starting the year a little injured, and then really hit her stride right before district play. And she was a dominant pitcher. She's graduated, so now Prosper's kind of, you know, going back and forth between a few pitchers. There was one in particular, Alyssa Griffin, who I've seen has, taken the circle a lot of times this year. She's a freshman for Prosper. They could be using a carousel of pitchers, including her, Marissa Mejia, Abby Beasley, some other names to look out for. So it could be a pitcher by committee. They maybe don't have that bona fide ace like they did last year, but they have some players. They returned plenty of players from last year's squad, that did some damage, that did plenty of damage, and I think they'll do more than just compete in 9-6A.
Prosper checking in at number 10 in the latest edition of the DFW Fast Pitch Rankings. Two other schools that are in that mix: Plano ranked at number 5, Allen ranked at number 8. With Plano, the Lady Wildcats won District 6-6A last year. They went all the way to the state semifinals. Great season, and they've got plenty of ammunition back from that team now. The biggest thing, though, is that they graduated 3 of the top 4 in their batting order. 3 kids that won all district superlatives: Emily Knight, Bronny Roden, and Lindsay Edwards. So just not just factoring in what those 3 brought from a leadership standpoint, but I mean, of the 9 spots in your batting order, first, third, and fourth are arguably the 3 most important. So how Plano had to kind of reshuffle the deck in that respect, talking with head coach Justin Pipak the other day, the plan is right now to slide Kate Body, who was initially the number 2 hitter. She's now leading off, and then moving catcher Zoe White up into the cleanup spot. And then Plano's going to be rolling with 2 freshmen hitting second and third in their lineup, Kaylee Blackman and Bella Bishop. So to have already thrust that level of responsibility on 2 freshmen, very interested to see how that plays out. Plus, they're kind of pulling a page out of last season's playbook, and that one of the big storylines during their playoff run was the emergence of Audrey McNeil, who was their number 2 pitcher during the regular season behind Bronny Roden. McNeil took the reins though in the playoffs and did a great job in helping pitch that team to the state semifinals. They're going to be alternating between 2 pitchers again this season. You have McNeil back, plus they're also going to give Mackenzie Ridley, their sophomore, some reps too. And the thought process behind that is, one of the reasons why Plano feels McNeil was so ready to go and ready to pitch those big innings in the playoffs was because of the experience she got in the regular season. So kind of taking that similar approach in case, they need to call upon Ridley, down the road. Plano's record's only 7-6. They've gotten a little bit hotter as of late. They do carry a little bit of momentum into district. In victory, though, so just 7-6, they've outscored those 7 teams that they've defeated by a combined margin of 92-5.
Yikes.
So it's kind of learning how to adapt to games where the offense doesn't come as readily as it is in some of these wins. But nevertheless, I think we all anticipate Plano being a pretty solid team.
They get
the
benefit of the doubt. I mean, after that run last year, for sure.
And ditto for Allen, a program that I had one of the nice feel-good stories within the area last year. They clinched the playoffs for the first time in 13 years. Just an absolutely thrilling regular season finale against Wiley, and just seeing how they kind of build off of that newfound momentum, knowing that they do have what it takes to get over the hump and get to the postseason. They do have a lot of pitching depth this season. Talking to head coach Philip Spaniel yesterday about that. Kelsey Delap and Alexis Telford have thrown the bulk of their innings. They also have Lauren Lopez, who's threw plenty of key innings for them last season. I think back to that game last year against Wiley and just how creative Spaniel got with some of the with the pitching, because the rules of softball are a little bit different. So you can, he would throw Kelsey Delap one inning, throw Lauren Lopez the next inning, bring back Delap and throw her the following inning. So I don't know if that's just going to be that might have been just a one-time thing that they tried, but nevertheless, Allen does have similar depth to what it had last year, so something they can definitely use to their advantage. Early on, though, the biggest bugaboo for them has been overcoming some injuries. A couple of their bigger bats are sidelined right now, and as you just talked about with Tatum Boyd, this is not the district that you can be short-handed. You have to have your full deck in this district. So we'll see. I think Spaniel anticipates those players coming back within the next 2-3 weeks. We'll see what kind of effect that has, just because again, 2-3 weeks that can be close to the midpoint in district play. So nevertheless, the onus is on Allen to shake off the any shortcomings in its lineup and see if they can make another charge towards a playoff spot. That is a look at Plano, Allen, East, West, Prosper, 9-6A. Should be another awesome district. Over in I guess before we shift gears, let's talk a little bit about Little Elm. Brian, I know you had some notes on them. A Little Elm team that I think you and Justin Thomas are going to be having a nice little back and forth this season, because you were already on record of thinking that Little Elm is going to win District 8 5A in the same district that houses a perennial juggernaut in the colony. So state your case. So
me and Justin were texting, I believe it was 2 nights ago. He said he's going to be at that game tonight, Little Elm against the Colony. It's a fierce rivalry. And I said, well, Little Elm's going to win. And he just starts going on and on how they have the 3 best players in the district, and not even including the one going to Iowa State or something. Whatever. Well, they don't have Lauren Lucas in the circle. Lauren Lucas is the best. Well, I don't want to say that. Jayda Coleman is the best player in this district, but Lauren Lucas is a phenomenal player. In most districts, she would be the best player. She's the best pitcher. She's coming off a 6 RBI game a couple weeks ago against Plano East. She's coming off of a 1-hit shutout against Pilot Point last week in a 3-0 win. You know, this team, they have 4 losses, but those losses are against teams like Wiley and there's so many wins on here I can't even say, and Coppell and Allen. They're playing top teams. They beat teams like Plano East and McKinney and Reedy, a team that I believe the rankings have ahead of Little Elm.
Yeah, Little Elm number 7 in these rankings.
Yeah, well, Little Elm has beaten Reedy this year already. They return a huge bulk of their lineup, you know, including Izzy Fielder, Madison Adams, Alyssa Adams, Michaela Roy, all girls that have been 2-year starters on the varsity team, this varsity team that has made the playoffs the last two years. And they bring in Georgia Heathcock, a freshman, starting at third base, and she's batting cleanup this year. So she's adding a new dynamic, a new power hitter coming into the lineup for Little Elm. And so the rest of District 8-5A, including the Colony, better watch out. And Little Elm came close to beating the Colony twice last year. One of those meetings was 3-1. Yeah. Because remember, the Colony was just blowing out everyone. It was the Colony and Prosper just destroying everyone in that district. Little Elm gave the Colony some games last year. Now those sophomores and juniors are another year experienced. Lauren Lucas is now only a junior. It feels like she should be at least a senior by now, how much she's played for this program. Wichita State commit. Things should be interesting between the Colony and Little Elm this year.
Chance for the Lady Lobos to make quite the statement to begin District 8-5A. And speaking of the Colony, that's a nice way to segue to our student athlete spotlight, because yes, Justin Thomas, you mentioned Jayda Coleman, you know, one of the best softball players in the country. Yeah. Justin had a chance to catch up with Jayda to talk a bit about as she prepares to enter her junior season, how she's feeling about that, how the Lady Cougars prospects are looking for this season, and we will see what she had to say after a word from this sponsor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Star Local Media, 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
We're here with Jayda Coleman, junior shortstop for the Colony softball team. Jayda, thanks for taking a few minutes to join us on the Star Local Media Sports Podcast today.
Of course.
Well, you guys are opening district today. Big game against Little Elm, so I'm guessing you guys got to be pretty excited to get going today?
Yeah, of course. It's our rivalry, and just to open up to them is going to be fun.
Do you like getting a game like that right off the bat, or would you rather have a couple before you settle in and get into district before you take on your big rival?
I think it's good just to get it all in at one time, just to get ready for season.
We were kind of chatting a little before we started recording here just about the weather and stuff. How challenging has that made non-district for you guys? Did it kind of cause any cancellations and slow things down, or do you feel like you guys are where you need to be at right now?
I think where we need to be. Like it's a little chilly outside, so we're kind of prepared because it's been like 30 degrees, and then we come out here and it's like 40, so it's not as bad, but I think we're prepared.
It's still a little chilly tonight.
Yeah, It's a little chilly tonight.
If you can kind of see the new field behind you, first season for the Colony's new softball field, and you guys are having a ribbon cutting ceremony. I understand you're giving a little speech today.
Yeah.
Are you guys pretty excited to get this park officially opened and everything?
Yeah, it's beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. Like we all love it. It's like all turf, and it looks beautiful.
I was going to ask you about that. The last couple of years, you guys have obviously had a grass field, and now you have the turf. How does that make things different, and do you have a preference?
I mean, I like dirt as an infielder, but as a slapper, it's great because you just bounce the ball up and then you can beat it out at first. But I like both of them.
Talk about how the season started for you guys. You guys, obviously won state 2 years ago and then lost in the second round to the eventual champs last year. Yeah. How do you feel things are kind of progressing so far for you guys this season?
I think it's going to be good. We won't see Forney until state, so it's going to be a little different. But we still got to play hard and just go at people.
You're a junior this year, so an upperclassman on the softball team this season. How are things different from you being kind of in more of a leadership in terms of your age and experience, you and some of the other players that you guys have been playing with here?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a freshman and sophomore, I really kind of just followed the juniors and seniors, but this year I kind of had to take that role of being, I'm an upperclassman, like everyone looks up to me. So, I mean, I've kind of always had a leadership kind of in me, but now it's like for real, like everyone's looking up to me.
You guys have a lot of core from your state championship team still remaining. You, JC, Carly, Matt, Coco. Talk about some of the younger players and players that maybe have bigger roles on the varsity this season and what they're bringing to you guys.
It's good. Like we have a new freshman, Olivia Wick. She is really good, and she came from American Freedom, and she's a freshman, and she just had to come up and play outfield. And I know it's hard as a freshman just to come out here and play varsity. Like you never played a high school game before, and then you had to come and play varsity, and then she even got moved to third. So I think they're doing good. Like some people got moved up from JV, and they're handling the pressure pretty well.
What does some of you and the juniors and some of the seniors, what have you kind of tried to tell some of these younger players as you guys have get into district and hopefully obviously the playoffs here in a couple months?
It's just to breathe. It's like a hard thing to go through as like a high school like student athlete. Like grades come first, and like staying out of trouble comes first, and then coming to the game is after that.
I remember 2 years ago in the playoffs, you guys had a big showdown, and it was mom versus daughter in the dugouts.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite.
Now you have you've been having Ashley here working with you guys with the Colony. What's that been like for you last year and this year, having your sister around?
It's a lot better. I feel a lot more comfortable because like sometimes she'll get on my side, like when me and my mom kind of get an argument at home. So she'd be like, "No, she's just a player." So I mean, she evens it out more with me and my mom. But it's great having her here. She's a good spirit to have on the field.
I mentioned the Forney playoff series. It kind of got a little look on your face there.
Yeah.
What is the motivation of this team coming into the season, and what are your expectations, and what are you guys hoping to accomplish?
I mean, just going at them and just playing defense and just taking good at-bats against them. Like, Savannah's a great pitcher, and just taking good at-bats against her is probably like the biggest thing that we can do. And just through everyone that we play, just taking good at-bats and playing good defense.
Just try to focus on the little things, and that'll get you where you need to go.
Yeah.
How's just the junior year for yourself gone so far? How have you gotten off playing? I know obviously you played volleyball too and have a pretty busy schedule. How have things been going for you?
It was good. I mean, I went into volleyball season, and then I went to the junior national team tryout, and I went right into softball. So I've been doing a lot lately, but I think practicing all the time, just keeping my body in shape was good.
Talk about that junior team tryout and being selected, only one of 2 juniors in the whole country. Just got to be a pretty awesome feeling. Just talk about that process and what it means to you.
It was great. I remember laying in bed, and my coach texted me and told me, and I was like, oh my God, like my dream has come true. Like when I was in elementary school, I used to write it down that like I wanted to be an Olympian. Like that's like my goal, and it actually came true. And it's like, it's still surreal. Like I haven't like had a USA jersey on. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, volleyball, are you going to do track and field this year at all, or is that?
I don't know. I'm going to try. It's been really cold outside, and then we've been playing a lot of tournaments that like get delayed, so I haven't gotten out there yet, but I hope so.
You seem like you're the type of athlete that could excel in any sports. Did you play all sports growing up, or was there any that you actually didn't enjoy or you weren't good at?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of that. I wasn't really good at soccer. I played soccer a little bit, but I did gymnastics and basketball, and like I did all the sports in middle school. But yeah, I think that's what made me the player I am today, just knowing like different aspects of the game all the way around through every sport.
Do you wish there was a way you could still play all those sports, or do you like kind of narrowing it down to a couple now and really focusing on those?
Really just focusing on volleyball and softball. Like it would be my dream to play volleyball and softball at Oklahoma. Like I absolutely love volleyball, and I don't know, they're both great. So.
Yeah. But right now, obviously, softball is your focus. So good luck tonight getting started against Little Elm for you and the Lady Cougars. And thanks a bunch for taking a few minutes to join us on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks to Jayda Coleman for joining us on the podcast this week. And I guess that's a pretty good transition to the second half here as we continue talking softball storylines for the 2019 season here. We switched it up. If you noticed, I'm Justin Thomas, and I'm being joined by Kendrick Johnson and Devin Hassan. So, gentlemen, we just heard from Jayda Coleman. I guess maybe that's what will kind of get things going. You know, no disrespect to District 6A. I think we're going to have some really entertaining races for the playoff spots in the district championship there. I think it's going to be pretty competitive, but the storyline I kind of wanted to focus on was the Lady Cougars. You know,
of course.
2 years ago, they were the state champions last year, finished second in the district behind a really good Prosper team, and then got beat in the second round of the playoffs. But they got beat by the eventual state champ Forney.
Yeah, that was a regional championship type.
Basically, and you know, if you look at how the playoffs played out, they probably gave Forney their toughest game of the whole playoffs when that game 2 when they lost by 1 run, and they had a runner picked off trying to move into scoring position there. So I'm interested to see how the Colony kind of bounces back this season. They lost some key pieces from last year, most notably Zaria Steiner, but you know, this team still looks to be pretty loaded. They have, you know, All-American Jayda Coleman, the #1 player in her class, the Oklahoma commit.
Special, must-see softball.
Must-see softball. A rare left-handed shortstop. She hits leadoff. She hits for homers. She's pretty much a stolen, you know, a single is a triple almost every time she gets on base.
She's the female Ricky Henderson.
Female Ricky Henderson. You heard it from Kendrick there.
You think it's accurate?
It's pretty accurate. But she plays shortstop, not outfield, so maybe she's better than Ricky Henderson.
And she's lefty.
Yeah, and she's lefty shortstop. And, well, maybe I shouldn't divulge any information here. We'll keep that under wraps for now.
Just call you tomorrow.
Some other skills could be displayed this season. I'll put it that way.
What a tease.
But yeah, so she's back. You know, this team's loaded up the middle. They have J.C. Hamlin. She's another junior. She's a Texas Tech commit at catcher. They have Carly Charles back in the circle for her senior year. She's an Iowa State signee. She was the MVP of the state championship game.
They got a select squad up over there at the Colony, bro.
They got third baseman Madison Hirsch coming back. She was the utility player of the year last year. She was offensive MVP 2 years ago. Last year she was really banged up. She's a Kansas signee. She's probably one of the premier power hitters, not only in the area, but in the whole state, I would say. You know, she definitely has the potential to knock out 20 homers in the season. And then they have some younger players coming up, you know, that are going to be in line for bigger roles. Players like Alexis Favors, Jody Duncan, Michelle Tillapal, Adriana Hondrick. So, you know, they have the core of their college signees back, and then, you know, some younger players ready for kind of bigger roles, and I think this team's going to be pretty loaded again.
I was going to say, if you got 5 D1 starters, that's a pretty good place to start.
Now, our colleague Brian Murphy gives Little Elm the nod in the district, so we'll see about that. But
fanboy.
I'm taking the Colony. I think the Colony's going to win this district, and I'm interested to see how the playoffs. We're just starting, but I'm already kind of looking ahead to the playoffs. When you have a team like the Colony, they're going to make the playoffs.
I'm glad you picked the Colony because on my team, I'm picking McKinney Boyd to talk about because the year, like 2 years ago, they only won 2 or 3 games the whole year. They went 2 full seasons without winning a district game.
We're full of good transitions today, huh?
And,
I think I know what you're about to mention.
They shut out the Colony, that same traveling squad with all the D1ers this weekend. Because their ace pitcher, Kenzie Cackley, who's thrown no hitter, she's got 6 shutouts, and she's the reason they went from like 2 or 3 wins last year as a freshman to 15. And she had 247 Ks, I think 5 shutouts last year. So she's only gotten better, she's hitting home runs this year. She's off to it again this year, and I think this year they're going to be a dark horse in 9-6A, and they're going to get something. I think like not only just going to get somebody to win, like they're going to be in the playoff mix because they're like, you can just see they're building, and they got a great coach in Mo Furt. She's used to be coaching at Keller. She used to coach at Keller. Yeah. She won a couple of state titles. And they got Diana Murtha. She's one of the best catchers in the area. She's going to University of Nebraska-Kearney. She's their senior leader. But the team will go as far as Kenzie Cackley can take them. The chick's a domino player, and she's very special.
Should be a tough district to get a playoff spot in. There with the Plano schools and Prosper and some of those other
Ain't no gimme wins in that district. You get your personal best just to compete up in that district.
Absolutely. Devin, what are you kind of focusing on this year? What's got your eye as softball's getting rolling here?
Well, I don't have a specific team. I do have a specific position, and that's pitching. We all know just how important pitching is in high school. We've seen over and over during the years that a pitcher can single-handedly carry a team to the playoffs in certain situations. So I do have a couple proven commodities. Sachse actually has a wealth of riches with Maddie Boyd, who was the MVP in 10-6A last year back, as well as Caitlin Lusk, who's another. He was the pitcher of the year 2 years ago. But they're kind of the aberration in my neck of the woods. Poteet, Mesquite, and
on Sachse, how do they do that? Do they usually pitch both of them in the same game, or do they try to kind of stagger them and just one starts and then goes the whole way?
Really, Maddie Boyd, shoulders loaded in the bigger games. I mean, Caitlin was capable 2 years ago as a freshman. They both have been trotted out there. That district is not real tough, so you have a lot of run rule games where it doesn't really matter. So, but in the playoffs, Maddie Boyd pitched. But Caitlin Lusk is a kind of a change of pace type pitcher. So, I mean, she can be brought upon. But yeah, like I say, Poteet, Mesquite, North Mesquite, 4-year starters trying to replace them. Most notably, Poteet with Maya Stevenson, who signed with Marshall, has already been making an impact at the collegiate level. So it's, this first month, it's just been kind of trial and error trying to find somebody to take up that reins, because not only were they 4-year starters, they were the one pitcher that they, would log 95% of the innings out there. Poteet's Ina Rainwater did pitch a little bit when Maya Stevenson got hurt during the portion of last year, so she does have some experience. Ariana Chappell is there for new head coach Amanda Lales. So Poteet has a very strong playoff tradition in softball. So those are the two that they're kind of going to turn to on the mound to get it going. Mesquite, North Mesquite, a little bit more uncertainty. These are teams who have struggled despite having those kids on the mound for 4 years. Giselle Hernandez and Brianna Santa Maria have pitched for Mesquite so far this year. Karsten Lampkin did get some experience for North Mesquite, but not much last year. Caitlin Brown's another one that they've been rolling out. A couple other teams, Rowlett, Kristen Bisong was their chief pitcher last year, pitched her sophomore and junior year as well. She graduated, so they're breaking in new pitchers like Ashton Norberg, who's got a little bit of experience, and Ashley McElroy, who's back her first year here. And then Sunnyvale I wanted to mention, because they've won back-to-back district championships. Cassidy Doyle was their MVP. I mean, was a dominant pitcher last year. She's graduated, so Sunnyvale's looking for new arms. So that's kind of the main thing I've been looking at early on, is just, I mean, the most important position without a doubt. And there's just so many question marks that haven't been answered yet, and probably won't be answered until we get through going here, here in the first couple weeks of districts.
Well, there's a cursory look at some softball coverage. Thanks for joining us on the podcast this week. For Kendrick and Devin, I'm Justin, and check back in next week. I'm guessing we'll transition from softball to a little bit of hardball, so some baseball coverage next week on the podcast. Thanks, guys, and have a good week.